hadn't been drinking. I mean, I had drank, so, and that led me to question, like, could I have hit him? Did I run over his foot or hit him in the knee? Did I incapacitate him?
More clips of defendant Karen Reed played for the jury. So is the Commonwealth proving that Reed was drunk the night in question? Plus, Pro Football Hall of Famer and media personality Shannon Sharpe in the midst of a $50 million sex assault lawsuit. Plus, defendant Kimberly Sullivan accused of holding her stepson captive in her own home for 20 years. Well, her defense attorney is coming on the show live this morning. Plus, also this hour, we could get some more insight into why 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery was set to live with her father, who was later convicted of murdering her. Audio recordings of her custody hearing are now being released, and we have an expert, an advocate for Harmony, joining us live. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning to you, my friends, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready to get the weekend started? Let's have a great show first. Grab that cup of coffee or tea, whatever you like, or if it's afternoon, if you're across the pond, grab your drink. It's time for my opening statement. The cat's out of the bag, and you'll never get him back in. Defendant Stephan Stern's alleged dirty secrets got out when he made a decision to allow police to look through his cell phone. What police say they found when they looked through Mr. Stern's phone is evidence of child sexual abuse. And now Stearns is wishing he hadn't given police his consent to look through his phone, because that decision led to a slew of criminal charges. I call him Sicko Stearns because of the sick, disturbing evidence that police reported finding on his phone. And now what's done is done. He can't take back that consent. He gave his permission and he ran the risk of the cat getting out of the bag. And thank God it did, right? Because little Madeline Soto deserves justice. So now, if Sicko is smart, he will be the one asking for something now. Mercy. I think Sicko Stearns should get on his hands and his knees and beg those prosecutors for a plea deal. If he did what the state of Florida alleges that he did, he should be begging them to take the death penalty off the table in exchange for a plea of guilty. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
What did you just do? And it's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and its lived experience.
In New York, we've got defendant Luigi Mangione in federal court today. He's going to be arraigned after he was just indicted. The scheduled time is 1 p.m. Eastern. Because it's federal court, our cameras are not permitted inside, but of course we'll monitor this hearing for you and bring you updates from the courtroom. And in Colorado, we're in verdict watch for the rock-throwing murder trial of Joseph Koenig. Jury deliberations in that case start up at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. In Massachusetts, we've got testimony resuming in the retrial of defendant Karen Reed. That's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern, and that is our top story. So after a short day of testimony on Thursday, the jury is going to be visiting 34 Fairview Road, where John O'Keefe's body was discovered on the edge of the property. On Thursday, prosecutors zeroed in on Karen Reed and John O'Keefe's relationship. The jury got to see text messages between the two of them hours before John was killed. Here's Reed asking John if he's interested in dating somebody else, and he replies no, and says, quote, "Things haven't been great between us for a while." Special prosecutor Hank Brennan also showed more clips of Reed describing how many drinks she had the night John was killed. Okay, apparently we don't have that audio, but we will get it for you. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Apparently we don't have the clip that we thought we did, but I can tell you about it. She's admitting to drinking. She's admitting to drinking different numbers of drinks in different interviews, and yesterday the prosecutor played a montage, and I'm being told we have the clip now. Let's watch.
When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I have had probably about 4, and not 4 that I completed either. I didn't drink maybe more than a few sips at the waterfall.
So you had a lot to drink, right? I wouldn't say, I'd have like a normal amount. Was it like a vodka tonic every 40 minutes? Okay. The drinks that they were pouring me at McCarthy's, which is where I consumed most of the alcohol, was the weakest vodka tonic. It tasted just like all soda water with lime. Not that I need it to be a martini, but it might have had a splash of vodka in it.
So from the Commonwealth's perspective, they're trying to prove homicide by vehicle while DUI. Have they proven the DUI portion of it? Let's bring in 2 outstanding prosecutors. I want to welcome in now the former state attorney in Palm Beach County, Florida. He's in private practice now, Dave Ehrenberg, and South Carolina solicitor Kevin Brackett. He worked in conjunction with our friend Tommy Pope many years ago to put away Susan Smith, and now he's the head of that office that Tommy once was. Welcome to you both. All right, so when it comes to this DUI aspect of the case, it seems that a lot of evidence is being derived from Karen Reed's own statements. I'm anxious to get your thoughts on whether you think the state has proven something here. Dave, would you start us off, please?
Yeah, good morning, Julie and Kevin. This is why defense lawyers say don't talk to the media. In fact, don't talk at all. Karen Reed thought she could have it both ways. She's blabbing to the media, but then she doesn't want to take the stand in her own defense. So the jury is going to hear from her in her own words through these interviews, and the interviews aren't good. And she's out there talking about how, well, she didn't really have 9 serious drinks there with vodka because those drinks are watered down. She didn't touch 2 of them. She only drank maybe 7 of them, even though she added an extra shot to each one. She was just buzzed. So that makes her look like a liar because no human being, at least a woman her size, would be just buzzed after drinking 7 drinks like that, let alone 9. And so, no, I think the DUI is clear. She even admitted that she should not have been driving that night, although, like I said, she only said she was buzzed. But as we've seen from the billboards, buzz driving is drunk driving.
Dave, you're so right. I've got another one of those clips we wanted to play for you both. Let's take a look now.
When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I have had probably about 4, and not 4 that I completed either. I didn't drink maybe more than a few sips at the waterfall.
And 4 drinks you felt fine to drive?
Yep.
All right, Kevin Brackett, what do you say about her various admissions and the number of drinks that seems to change a bit?
Well, I've got to agree with Dave, Julie. You know, in a situation like this, not to use a pun, but she's going to water down her intake of alcohol as much as she can because she knows what they're after and she knows what the implications of saying that she had too much. So she's going to try to downplay that. But 7 drinks, she's a small woman. That's definitely going to have an impact. Most people with any experience drinking at all are going to know you shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car after 7 drinks. So I think it's damning evidence, and it's going to be very hard for her to get past that piece of it.
Right. Kevin, very clever pun there about watering down the alleged conduct. And in the clips yesterday, we learned that she was trying to make the drinks stronger, saying that she was ordering shots because they were weak pours. In one of the drinks, I believe she said it was the last one, that she put 2 shots in it so that it was the way she likes it. Dave Ehrenberg, what kind of impression were you left with watching those clips from her?
When I saw those clips, first, it made her look like a liar. Also, it took away from this image of this sweet woman who dresses in pink and is just a victim of a big witch hunt here. You know, she clearly has volition. She has control. She is the one who decided that these drinks from a bar were not strong enough, so they had to juice it up with an extra shot. And I think the jurors, especially if they're teetotalers or perhaps don't drink at all, are going to look at her and be like, look at this person. This person clearly did whatever they said she did because we just don't like her. We don't like her because she's a heavy drinker and then lied about it. We don't like her because she committed DUI. And also just her mannerisms here. It doesn't look like she's a wallflower here. It looks like someone, like I said, who has control of the situation. So I don't think these interviews helped her one bit. They only are going to contribute to her conviction.
Dave, a great analysis. And you said something there I wanted to ask you and Kevin about control. Whether in what you saw in the testimony yesterday said anything to you about her possibly exhibiting some issues with control. When we saw the messages between her and victim John O'Keefe on the last day that he was able to enjoy his life here on earth, she wouldn't leave him alone. The text messages, the calling, it was incessant. And I'm curious, you both have so much experience in the courtroom with domestic violence cases. I'm curious if you saw any signs of any type of controlling behavior that you may see in DV cases that you have prosecuted. Kevin.
Yeah, Julie, the text clearly indicates she was fixated on him and, calling him back repeatedly to the point where he's killing the call and not accepting it, rejecting it. She was definitely fixated. And the alcohol is, in addition to being able to show that she was driving under the influence, the other thing that you're going to be able to argue from the alcohol consumption is it impairs your judgment, not just your judgment and your ability to safely operate a motor vehicle, but your ability to make decisions. If she's upset with John, if she's, angry with him, the alcohol is going to amplify and intensify her feelings and allow her to reach a point in her mind where doing something like, running him over with a car is acceptable in the moment of her alcohol, influences. So she definitely has done a lot of damage to her case with that.
Such sharp analysis, Kevin. Thank you. Dave, let me go to you. Same question. Do you see any signs of DV here when we look at some of the messages and what was going on between the two of them?
Yeah, Julie, I have to agree with Kevin. Those text messages are pretty damning because they do show an aggressiveness about it and the fact that she kept calling him while she's text messaging him to the point where O'Keefe had to say, enough, I don't want to talk to you. And then she was pushing the status of their relationship, and then finally they met at that bar that night. So can we believe that in her drunkenness and her anger that she put the car in reverse at a high speed and hit him? Of course, because that's what happened. Or if you're going to believe the opposite, which is what the defense wants you to believe, that somehow a bunch of law enforcement officers and soccer moms inside of a house pummeled him to death and threw O'Keefe on the lawn? Like, that makes any sense? So, yeah, this to me is a no-brainer, and hopefully the jury can see through the smoke screens.
I'm with you, my friend. It's preposterous, and it's offensive because, when there are victims of a corrupt system or a corrupt police officer, of course, we want to identify that, but here, in my view, this is not even close to that. And don't even get me started. I've been in cases where I've had to do the unpleasant job of prosecuting a police officer or prosecuting a former prosecutor. Here, this to me is big gaslighting. We're going to continue our conversation about this case. Kevin and Dave, I'm so glad you both are here. Stand by for more questions, please. After our break, here's what's coming up.
My dog is, I got my dog.
I know, come on.
I'm coming.
You're seeing that one victim right here.
Just look at this. Look at this home where a man was held captive for decades, according to police. And they say that the perpetrator is his stepmother. Well, the attorney for that woman is coming on the show with me live in minutes. And we're talking about Shannon Sharpe and the sex assault controversy. So is this a bad look or a bad act? Our power panel weighs in.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed! We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
You feel that?
The NWSL is on ION.
It's game time. Showing off a little skill now. The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long. Find ION wherever you watch.
ION, it's on.
I did not perk. I did not see LeBron working out. Now that I saw the little snippet just before we got this thing and I saw him working out, guess what, Stephen A? The Thunder, a Boost Mobile bundle, WWE Royal Rumble. Lakers in 5.
Known for his appearances on ESPN's First Take, Pro Football Hall of Famer and media personality Shannon Sharpe right there, finding himself in the middle of a $50 million sex assault lawsuit. So now he's stepping away from his TV duties, but his case is what's trending in true crime. Attorneys filing the suit against the former NFL star earlier this week for a woman who's listed in court documents as Jane Doe. The suit accuses Sharpe of using physical force on her and inflicting emotional distress. The anonymous woman is claiming that her relationship with the 56-year-old started back in 2023 when she was 20 years old. The woman is represented by Tony Busby. That name sounds familiar? Well, it should. He's been known for having some legal battles with Jay-Z and Sean Combs, who Sharpe addressed in his statement on TikTok.
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown. I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. Tony Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey, Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out. I don't have it, or I would myself. You know what happened, and you're trying to manipulate the media. The encounter in question took place during the day at her invitation, and now that appears to be a deliberate setup.
Now, attorney Tony Busby told CNN, quote, "Takes a great deal of courage to stand up against those with power, fame, and money. I look forward to pressing this case in court." Now, we're asking our power panel this morning, are these allegations brought against Sharpe a bad look or a preview into bad acts? Let's bring back in attorneys Kevin Brackett and Dave Ehrenberg, and welcome in entertainment commentator Holland Reed. Holland, let me begin with you. Your thoughts, please.
Oh boy, Julie, messy, 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 petty, 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 take down, shake down, whatever word you want to use. We see this in Hollywood and entertainment, especially in sports, all the time. The thing is about Shannon, he is a direct shooter. He is very honest, and he does want the entire text message thread and the clips and the chats and everything released, and I understand why. But it doesn't make it less messy or nasty, and I think that things will come to light, but I think that it's going to be a really tricky situation if he was using his power and influence to, I guess, take away her autonomy or to force her into anything. It's kind of sickening. It was really hard for me to even read and listen to the things that were being said, but he is a straight shooter. He is a truth teller. That's what he lives on. He stands on that in his business, and I'm hoping that the truth comes to light, and then it just is not as messy. It stops getting messy. It's very messy.
Right. Holland, you're right. Kevin Brackett, let me go to you next. Your thoughts, please.
Well, Julie, these are the hardest cases. When we look back at what Jay-Z just had this same experience last month, and there were, at the start of the accusations against him. Anytime you have someone coming forward to make an accusation like this against somebody who is well-to-do and has a great deal of money, it always is going to be raised the possibility that this is just a money grab, and that's exactly what Mr. Sharpe seems to be doing here. It doesn't necessarily mean these aren't true. Rich people do bad things sometimes. So I applaud his calling for all of the evidence to come out. If there is more to the tape that is apparently out there, obviously you need to see the entire thing, and usually the rules of evidence in every state provide for that. If you're going to put a piece of evidence in, you can't just shave off a part of the video and put that forward. You've got to put the entire thing out there so that the judges of the fact have the context for it. So it is so hard to tell at this stage whether this is just a money grab or whether Mr. Sharpe really did do something bad. But there's obviously some issues here.
Right. And Kevin, you're right. A complete picture is what is necessary. necessary here. That says a lot. He's calling for it. Dave Ehrenberg, last but not least on our power panel, your thoughts, please.
Julie, that statement by Shannon Sharpe is for the court of public opinion only. It will never be allowed in court. His defense that Tony Busby, the lawyer here, is a racist and targets black men, that's not going to come into court, but he's trying to influence the court of public opinion. The problem for Shannon Sharpe is if other women come forward, just like in the Diddy situation, and corroborate the claim with something similar. And we now have reports that there is another ex-girlfriend who had filed a rape accusation against Shannon Sharpe a couple years prior. And so that's the type of thing you want to avoid from his sake, from his camp. But right now, you're innocent until proven guilty. We don't know, as Kevin said, if this is just a shakedown. The evidence will continue to come out. But that's the thing he has to worry about the most, that the initial complaint here will engender more to come and give more people courage to speak out against a very powerful celebrity.
Sure. I love that point, Dave. And it made me wonder initially when I saw the lawyer that filed it, I had to wonder, did she see what's been in the news with Diddy and Jay-Z? You know, how did she find Tony Busby? Really curious about that, and if that will affect her case one way or the other. As we know, he and Jay-Z got into it recently. Now, let's talk about another aspect of this. So Shannon Sharpe said he's going to temporarily take a break from his role on ESPN while this lawsuit plays out. His recent statement says, in part, quote, "I'll be devoting this time to my family and responding and dealing with these false and disruptive allegations set against me. I plan to return to ESPN at the start of the NFL preseason." Now, Sharpe is most known for his television and social media appearances now, but before he found stardom on those platforms, he was a dominant tight end in the NFL for 14 seasons. Here's a little more on him. Played on 2 Super Bowl winning teams, voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011, retired as the NFL's all-time leader among tight ends in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. So our next question for our incredible power panel is, with so much to lose in the world of public perception, will Shannon Sharpe be able to rebound from the accusations? Howland, what do you think?
Oh man, I think this is exposure season. This is truth season. It doesn't matter what your accolades are. It doesn't matter what your title is, how many awards you have, how much money you have. If you are doing anything in the dark, that it's going to come to light. And this is not the time to rely on your notoriety. This is the time to be truthful and, I guess, pay the price for your actions. And hopefully, hey, well, if he bounces back from this, like many have, we've seen it happen time and time again. Power does that, but also it's the time for accountability for those in power.
Right, Holland. Well said. Kevin, to you next, please.
Yeah, so much depends on how this thing plays out, Julie. If there's some stunning piece of evidence that shows her talking about, I'm just going to get some money out of him, this is going to be a bump and run. I saw what this Busby guy was doing with P. Diddy and Jay-Z, and I thought maybe this is my chance too. If there's something like that, then, he comes out smelling like a rose. Obviously, if that video shows something terrible, there's no coming back from it. And I think it looks like ESPN might be hedging its bets and trying to decide whether or not they want to risk having him stay on. So that's probably a calculated decision on their part as well as his.
Oh, that's a good point, Kevin. Thank you. Dave Ehrenberg, would you take us home? Your thoughts, please.
Well, videos are the worst thing for a situation like this. It's one thing to have an accusation, but if there's anything caught on tape, just ask Diddy. He was able to survive all those allegations over years until there was that video of him assaulting Cassie. Now, if any video like that comes out, in addition to the audio, that'll be a real problem for Shannon Sharpe. But if he's acquitted ultimately, then he'll be back on the air. We're a very forgiving society, despite cancel culture. If you're acquitted in a court of law, or if this case gets settled in advance, I suspect that his career will be far from over.
Oh, great points. We'll leave it there for now with Shannon Sharpe. Still to come this morning here on Opening Statements, defendant Kimberly Sullivan allegedly held her stepson captive in this home for 20 years. Her defense attorney is saying that things aren't adding up, and he's joining us live next.
He struck her blow after blow after blow. He assaulted and he murdered because of that rage.
Here the child died, but I would direct...
The child didn't just die. The child was killed after the child was given to the person, the state delivered the child to the person who killed.
We're one step closer to finally figuring out why Harmony Montgomery was sent to live with her father, who, as you know, ended up murdering her. We'll be right back.
Who's in the house? Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other people?
That's it. I have 2 cats.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
But your stepson's still inside?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay,
yes.
come out. Come down the road. Come on, come on.
Now for what's tipping the scales in the case against Kimberly Sullivan, the Connecticut woman who's accused of holding her stepson captive in her home for 2 decades in deplorable conditions. Well, we heard from the victim last week when he released his first statement saying, quote, "I am the survivor of more than 20 years of captivity and domestic abuse. I was held prisoner in my home from the time I was taken out of the 4th grade at age 11 until 2 months ago at age 31, when I purposely set the fire that helped set me free." But Kimberly Sullivan's attorney is saying that the charges don't add up. And he is joining us this morning live on the program. I want to welcome in now Attorney Ioannis Kaloidis. Good morning to you. And I think I might have mispronounced your first name. Giannis Kaloidis, is that correct?
You got it. Both ways work.
Okay.
Giannis is the formal, Giannis is the more casual. And thank you for having me this morning, Julie. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, of course. Well, we're delighted to have you. Giannis, tell us why it was important for you to come on the program, if you would, please.
So, obviously, I wanted to accept your invitation from the day we got it, but I feel it was important to come on here because there has been a lot of media attention, there's been a lot of media scrutiny, and there's been a lot of negative attention directed towards my client. At times, it feels like the whole world has already convicted her, and she is feeling the weight of that. And she's asked me to try and protect her, both in the court and outside of the court. There has been a lynch mob mentality. And what I can tell you is she has maintained her innocence. She has proclaimed her innocence to me. And she has asked me to try and clear her name. So that is why we are here. We are trying to push back on the public narrative that she is, some horrible person. That is not the case.
Giannis, tell us what exactly happened in that house where she and the man who's now 32, her stepson, he's going by S now to not identify himself publicly. What exactly happened in the house where the two of them were living?
So, I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover there. There's more than 20 years that they lived in the home together. And what I can tell you is the specifics about our defense, the specifics about what she's going to say, those are going to come out at the time of trial. There is evidence that we intend to introduce. There's witnesses that we intend to call. There's experts that we intend to use. But at this point, it's still premature. What I can tell you generally is my client denies that she ever put any restraint on this man. She did not prevent him from leaving the house. She denies holding him captive. She denies depriving him of food and water. She denies all of these allegations.
If she didn't do it, who did?
Well, respectfully, that question assumes that someone did. We don't know that anyone held him captive. We have no evidence to suggest that anyone held him captive. I've spoken to my client. She's made clear that he was not a captive in that home.
Police say, Giannis, that there was an external lock on the bedroom door where S lived. Is that untrue?
That is true. There was an external lock on that door, but there was an external lock on multiple doors throughout the house, and those external locks predated my client ever living in the home. So when she moved in, external locks were on doors throughout the house, and they remained on many of the doors, even today.
Giannis, we know that S was extremely emaciated, 5'9", that's how tall he is, and he weighed 69 pounds at the time he was rescued. Police reported he was very dirty, his hair was matted. They said all of his teeth appeared to have been rotting from his mouth. What's your client's response to that if she was living with him and in a position to help him live well?
So my client, the individual, her accuser, is now 32 years old. He's been an adult for more than a decade. She is not responsible. He's not a child, but she's responsible for his care. She cannot force someone to take care of themselves. She cannot force someone to leave the home. She cannot force someone to bathe. Those are all things that were within his control, and we believe that is what the evidence will show at trial. And respectfully, with respect to the weight, there is a lot more that I think will come out with respect to the weight. I have yet to see any medical records from the date he went into the hospital through the present. Obviously, those are going to be at issue. There's going to be medical experts that may testify in the case that may address that. We've gotten some discovery. And what I can tell you, based on some of the Department of Children and Family records that have been produced, weight was a concern from an early age, from as early as 4 years old, again at 8 years old, and again at 12 years old when DCF was involved. And at every step of their involvement, a pediatrician addressed this issue and cleared my client. We are confident that when all the evidence will come out, there will be a different picture that's painted of my client.
Giannis, what about the fire that police say S set so that he could be rescued? That he was deliberately laying down so that someone would literally pick him up and get him out of that house to safety. What does your client say to that?
So we're not even certain how this fire actually started. We know what the accuser has said, but the evidence I have seen does not definitively support that yet. We're still waiting on the reports. The early preliminary fire marshal reports I've seen do not create a strong case in support of how the fire started. So there's still a lot of questions about that. And whether that even makes sense, given all the other options and all the other possibilities and all the other ways one could leave their alleged captivity, this method doesn't make sense. Given the amount of neighbors, now I'm not going to get into all the ways that we're going to cross-examine and poke holes in this story, but I think a critical analysis of this story, critical analysis, extensive cross-examination, and a strong defense, and I think this case will not stand up.
Giannis, you're no doubt a tremendous advocate for your client. Kimberly Sullivan is lucky to have you. From her perspective, what is the story? I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is it that he's living there and she's not holding him captive, not starving him, not abusing him in any way?
That is correct.
We have to leave it here for now for time's sake, but Giannis, we would be happy to welcome you back as you're able to share more with us from your client's perspective and what went on in that house where police allege Kimberly Sullivan held her stepson captive. Again, just an allegation. She's cloaked in the presumption of innocence. Attorney Giannis Kaloidis, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Certainly. Speak soon. And still ahead this morning here on Opening Statements, we're being a voice for victim Harmony Montgomery. You know, the trial may be over, but we certainly haven't forgotten about her. And the latest news involves some recordings of the custody hearing, how she got into that monster's hands in the first place. Well, they're going to be released. And we have one of Harmony's greatest advocates joining us live next. The Honorable Carol Erskine talks with us right after this break. Don't go away.
You told police shot him twice in the head.
I could have killed everybody in that building, and I didn't.
You think you should get some kind of credit for not killing people?
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV. Next week on Opening Statements.
The murder retrial of Karen Reed, breaking down the strategy from both sides before we take you into the courtroom each day.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. This morning, we're giving a voice to victims like 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery, as we're trying to find out why she was sent to live with her father, who ended up killing her. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court has ruled that audio recordings from Harmony's 2019 child custody hearing will be released. Her father, Adam, is serving 56 years to life in prison for his daughter's murder. And Harmony's body to this day still hasn't been found. Recently, the court heard arguments about why the recordings should be released.
Obviously, the most important consideration is trying to figure out what went terribly wrong here. Is there anything that shouldn't be turned over? I mean, are there any residual privacy interests that we have to take into account here, given that? I mean, I'm trying to understand, is there anything that should be impounded in your view?
So a filmmaker wanted access to those records for a film that he's producing on the Massachusetts child protection and juvenile court systems. Joining me now, retired juvenile court judge Carol Erskine, who also handled the adoption of Harmony's brother Jameson, and that's not all. She wrote the book A Cruel Injustice, all about how Massachusetts put little 4-year-old Harmony into the hands of that monster. And the judge is on the program with us today to talk about it. Judge Erskine, good morning to you. I always say you are one of Harmony's greatest advocates. That is the truth. You're not getting a penny for this book, by the way, all the proceeds being donated, and to the Dave Thomas Adoption Foundation. When you heard this news, Judge, about what the court ruled, when the SJC said, okay, this can be released to that filmmaker, what was your reaction?
Well, good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for your advocacy for Harmony and for all child victims. I was very encouraged to see the decision. I was actually in agreement that there should be some limited release of the audio. As you know, I spent 2 years trying to piece together what happened in that hearing based on the OCA report and based on my knowledge of the system and how it works. And as the decision came out 2 days ago, it basically confirmed what I said in the book, and that is that there really are no privacy rights any longer. There's no attorney-client privilege any longer. That it's important to, in some cases, it's very important for the public to know what happens behind closed doors. So this was a very narrow decision, releasing it only to the documentarian, and it's redacted to keep out names like Jameson and other children of Crystal Sorey. And then the audio can be released, I think, after the documentary. So it wasn't a sweeping decision opening up the juvenile court, which is what I had hoped they would say. But I agree, and of course I made that argument very strongly in my book, that it's time to open this up and tell the truth instead of letting Massachusetts hide behind things like confidentiality, privacy, and attorney-client privilege, because that's what the state of Massachusetts wants. They want to keep it a secret.
Right, and it is certainly not lost on us, Judge, that you were the first one to say it and the first one to make that push with that great book that you wrote. Something I found interesting, perhaps you do too, Judge, and we have a clip on this, I want to play it now, that even Harmony's mother, biological mother, Crystal Sorey, and Adam Montgomery, didn't block the release of that information. Let's take a look.
Particular case. The mother herself has freely discussed the substance abuse issues that led her to lose custody of her child. The father, who one would think would have some objections to disclosure, has not objected to disclosure at all.
And so that attorney representing the filmmakers in this push to get that release. Judge, what did you think about them not caring that the information's out there?
Well, I think Crystal Sorey wants validation of the fact and what I said in the book, and that is that she was legitimately in another court for a pretrial hearing on Jamison's case. And basically the court said that the Office of the Child Advocate said that they did redact some information regarding Harmony. Her lawyer argued that she was opposed to some things, and they did allow those redactions. I think, of course, the father wants it because he looks good in that case, because you have lawyers who are not asking questions in the department, lawyers who basically failed to put on any kind of effective case. The child's lawyer who completely agreed with Harmony going with her father based on the fact that the child's lawyer took the position that that's what 4-year-old Harmony wanted, which is something I never believed. And so basically what came in as was said by the OCA was that the judge relied on the positive testimony that came in from Adam Montgomery. So you can see why he would want that, because it makes him look good. The problem is it doesn't tell really the true story of what happened. I mean, he was living with Kayla Montgomery, who was actively using heroin and other substances. That never came in. She was never tested. There's no indication that Adam Montgomery was even drug tested, only that he had complied with substance abuse counseling. Well, he was complying with it while he was in New Hampshire, using heroin and meth every single day while he was beating and abusing Harmony. So much of the information is left out. And I think that's what people need to know. But that's why he wants it in, because only his case really came into evidence in front of the judge.
Boy, this insight you're sharing is so helpful, Judge. It's so awful. It makes me want to cry as I'm thinking about this. I know it has broken your heart in every way, hearing about what this child went through, being failed by so many people that should have been protecting her. And do you think, Judge, I know we don't, we can't go back in time, and we don't know how this would have played out if things would have gone differently. If in that hearing, Harmony was not allowed to return to her father, do you think that she could have actually wound up with her brother Jamison, with Blair and Jonathan Miller, those wonderful parents who are raising Jamison now?
Well, I think that certainly is a distinct possibility. I mean, if it hadn't gone that way, I think if she was still in foster care, then, of course, the Department of Children and Families looks to keep siblings together. And I think that was a distinct possibility. Or if she wasn't returned to the mom, then she could have possibly gone back to the very loving foster parents who took care of her for most of the 4 years that she was in custody. I think she was only not out of custody, but only back with her mom for about 15 months total. So yeah, it would be a distinct possibility, because when Blair and Jonathan met Jamison in June, if Harmony still had been in foster care, for example, if the department had done anything like
just
actually
about
appealing the case.
Right, they could have. I know they wanted to take her. Yeah, they would have taken her if they legally could have. Judge Carol Erskine, you're the best. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. We'll talk again soon. And as we head to break, we want to remember that beautiful little angel, Harmony Montgomery. Her murder was preventable. Yes, it was. She deserved so much better. We'll be right back.